no matter what your bedroom looks like, no matter what your grades are like, you didn't cause this. You did not cause your parents' mental illness. It has nothing to do with you. There are mental health professionals and there are programs, there is medication, there are all kinds of things to help your loved one, but your job is to be the best teen, the best adolescent, the best person you can be.
Welcome to Normalize the Conversation. I'm your host, Francesca Reicheter. Today, I'm joined by a mother-daughter team, Dr. Michelle and DeAnne Sherman, co-authors of I Am Not Alone, a teen's guide to living with a parent who has a mental illness or history of trauma. In this episode, we discuss the challenges teens face when living with a parent who has a mental illness or history of trauma. Join us in learning practical strategies for coping, how to break the silence around mental health, and why self-care is essential for teens navigating these complex family dynamics. Michelle, DeAnne, thank you so much for joining me today. I am very excited for our conversation. But before we begin, I just want to check in. How are you really?
I am doing well. I am just so honored and I'm happy to be able to spend this time with you. And it just lifts my heart and spirits to be with someone who shares our passion. And so I also got to see a dance show last night. I'm a choreographer, so that lifts my spirits as well. So I'm in a good place this afternoon. Thank you for asking.
I'm in a good place this afternoon. I'm with my daughter, my co-author, and her puppy, Toby, who brings us great joy. I was at that dance concert last night and just got a good health report the other day about something that was concerning. So I'm living in a great, great place of gratitude. And Francesca, that includes getting to meet you.
You're both so sweet. And I'm so happy both doing really good right now because that's going to make for a really great conversation.
All right. Amen.
So
hold on. We get to ask you, how are you?
Thank you for asking. I am in my last semester of grad school with my last set of finals, papers, presentations. So excited, overwhelmed, all of the above.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You're on the home stretch.
So close. And one of my favorite things that I get to do is the podcast because I feel like it gives me an edge with other students sometimes because I get to learn from people who really understand and who've created resources. I know a lot more books that I can read to learn things and then share with my clients and then annoy all my classmates bringing in books to class saying, you need to read this. So going through this, my practicum site is all teens. So I'm working with a lot of teens and I have some of them who also have parents who struggle. And similar to me having a loved one who struggled, if you don't know what's going on and it just feels like all this emotional reactivity is coming at you, a lot of times you internalize it. I've seen that with them and I saw that with myself. So when I was looking through both of these, but specifically with the teen, I went back and did it as if I was my teenage self. And there was so much that I realized I thought was because of me, that I wasn't good enough, that I was the problem, and really it was someone else who needed support and resources who at that point in time wasn't getting them. So I appreciate what you've created.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we really do try to see these young people and their experiences. And as you said, so often they're kind of invisible in the system and no one's paying attention to them or supporting them. And so I'm glad that it really resonated with you and what your teenage self would have been helped by.
Yeah, because 20 years old, I ended up in a psych unit. Had I known a little bit, even in this, there was understanding how you're feeling. And you broke down different emotions. And I was like, oh, I thought the whole time I was feeling frustrated, but I was feeling forgotten. And that's huge to recognize. So not only did this help me understand my loved one, but it also helped me understand what I was feeling. And had I known that, how I would have approached it may have been a tiny bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. Emotions are just so multi-layered, right? In terms of it's not just that superficial emotion of frustration, which absolutely family members, teenagers can experience. But underneath that, the pain of feeling forgotten, of sadness, of loneliness, of confusion, all the other emotions that go beneath it. So that ability to identify and understand the variety of emotions. I'm glad that came through for you.
And I also think feeling responsible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that two of the most important messages we give our readers is that no matter what your bedroom looks like, no matter what your grades are like, you didn't cause this. You did not cause your parents' mental illness. It has nothing to do with you. And the second thing we tell them is, and you can't make it go away. There are mental health professionals and there are programs, there is medication, there are all kinds of things to help your loved one, but your job is to be the best teen, the best adolescent, the best person you can be, while keeping in mind that there's an issue at home and maybe you want to pitch in a little more, take your sibling to dance class or help with the dishes or be a little more attentive and gentle and loving with your loved one. But it's not your responsibility to make them feel better and make it go away.
I wish, again, that was something I knew back then, because a lot of times I thought, oh, this is my fault if I change. And I internalized that message through everything then in my life. So at one point, I completely stopped eating to the point where my skin was losing color, my kidneys were shutting down, because I thought if I'm small enough, then everything will be okay. So these messaging, blaming myself, trying to figure out what I could do differently to make this all stop, was it's just heartbreaking looking back at it now. Back then, I was so convinced and deep in it, but now being 26 and not 16,
Right.
back at that time, seeing, wow, if only I had some kind of conversation, if someone at school talked about this, if I knew of a book to read about this, like if there was one thing, so much pain that I went through may not have been completely prevented, but maybe just a tiny bit different to not end up at a place where I felt like the world was better without me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You got to that place of such incredible pain and loneliness and not feeling seen. And I think, your point is really well taken. It's like, how can we help kids understand that it's not their fault? They didn't do anything wrong, because you were trying to have some control over out of control situation, right? Like controlling your eating. That's something I can control. And you were just grasping at anything to try to have some sense of control and peace out of a really out of control situation. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, okay, so what gave you the idea? First of all, for people who are listening but not watching, the name of the book we're referencing is I'm Not Alone, A Teen's Guide to Living with a Parent Who Has a Mental Illness or a History of Trauma. There is also an adult version, so Loving Someone with a Mental Illness or History of Trauma as well. So I want to make sure I say that for the people who are not watching. But what inspired you to write this? And then just the way you made it flow. How did you come up with this?
Yeah. So we've been working together on writing for 20 years. So although these just came out, this is not a new thing. So, I'm a psychologist, and my entree into really focusing on families started probably before you were born in the mid-1990s, in which I was working in a Veterans Affairs clinic, a VA hospital, and really noticing all of these family members in the waiting room, the children, the parents, the partners, and their veteran at the time would go in for their appointment and come out, and then they would leave. I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people here together have such commonality of need, of experience, of feeling so stigmatized and confused and alone. We need to do something about it. So actually, I got my very first tiny grant as a little old psychologist in 1996 and started creating curriculum for families in which loved one had mental illness. And actually, I was, I think, in the right place at the right time. And some of these curriculum got rolled out nationally in the VA system and really started to grow some attention and energy. So I've been doing this work in my day job for 30 years, so for a long time. And so where that kind of led was we were actually on vacation in northern Minnesota. And I said to my mom, hey, do you want to write a book? And she said, yes, darling, anything with you, is what she said.
And then I said, but what did you just say to me?
So that's where it all started.
Yeah.
And so we
It started at the lake.
on vacation.
On vacation. And
Yeah. So I we worked together really hard, and we wrote 3 books actually in the mid 2000s. And they were all for teenagers. One was for teens whose parent has a mental illness, one for teens whose parent has experienced trauma, and one for teens whose parent experienced military deployment. And so that's how it all started, actually. We were really, really fortunate to have an awesome experience in that the National Guard picked up our trauma book and bought 75,000 copies and sent boxes to every National Guard unit across the country. So that was kind of exciting and just speaks to the lack of resources for these young people. So again, that was 20 years ago. And then at the beginning of COVID, I said to Mom, hey, do you want to write another book? And she said yes. And so that's why we've been working on these most recent 2, the one for adults. And then I'm Not Alone that you have in your hand is actually the second edition of one we'd written back in 2005. So that's kind of been part of the story. We also, Fran, have family members ourselves who live with mental illness. And so it's not only a professional passion, but a personal one as well. And that fuels and sustains and motivates us to continue to do this important work of trying to raise awareness and let people know about resources. Do you want to add anything?
And sometimes doesn't allow us to do the work, because some days I'll say to Michelle, honey, this is just too close. I can't do this today. Okay, Mom, you just put it aside and go do something else. So it absolutely fuels our passion.
Absolutely.
And we wrote the book this past 5 years, taken 5 years to write the book for adults. And in the process, we said, wow, why don't we just get that book in 2005 up to snuff? And we didn't get it up to snuff. We rewrote it. Francesca, a lot has happened in 20 years. And the book, it just needed to have all kinds of new ideas. We had 20 or so teens read our book and give us feedback, as only teens will do. And some was pretty direct, which is exactly what we wanted. And so we're real proud of this book, dealing both with parental mental illness and the results of a traumatic situation. So yeah, it's our ministry, it's our passion.
First, I want to say your relationship is amazing to be able to work together. And then one thing you said was when it's too close to home, being able to like validate and take a break. A lot of people, I don't want to say like every family members, but there are a lot of family dynamics where there's not space for both people to have emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that you're able to do that is just so heartwarming. Gives me hope that maybe when I have a daughter one day, we'll be able to validate each other's emotions and give each other that space that I really wanted and I would want for someone else.
Absolutely. Yeah, we say 99% of the time, which is pretty darn good, we think. We are a great team. We work really hard. Actually, we both have a similar work ethic. And then we take breaks and play. We play with my puppy or do online shopping or go on a walk or get a special restaurant, food or something. And so we take good care of ourselves and each other. But there's no one in the world I'd rather write with than my mom. I wouldn't do it with anyone else. It's true. We're really fortunate to blend our strengths. I'm a psychologist. I write like technical stuff and for the psychologist audience. And she's like, no, you have to write this or explain. She's a teacher, and so she knows how to frame things and to have activities. And as you see in the book, obviously it's very interactive. So it's not like this is schizophrenia. I mean, you could Google that, right? And it's very much more skills and activities. And so throughout both of our books, they're very interactive. And so she really, as an educator, helped put that into ways that people could really engage with.
And you did an amazing job because it really does break it down that you can understand the different symptoms. I mean, there's the example of symptoms of depression, schizophrenia, I believe was in there, trauma, bipolar. So you really hit on like those kind of technical pieces, the symptoms, but then in a way that made it make sense to a mind that doesn't have the language, that doesn't have the training and understanding of it. So you really got the best of both worlds. And one of my favorite pieces was like recognizing, do you notice these symptoms? How does that feel for you?
Okay.
A lot of times as the child, our feelings can be invalidated. We tell kids, my favorite was Big Girls Don't Cry, because I like that song. I hate that saying. Big girls don't cry, or cry me a river, build a bridge, and get over it. I got that one a lot. Grow up, don't be so dramatic. It's not all about you, but all these things were impacting me. I was experiencing things as a result.
Yeah.
And it was a lot, but there was never space for me to feel. So reading through that, you actually made space for both to exist, right? I was going through and what the kid was feeling and how, and not just what you're feeling, but what you can do to cope with it. I love that self-care piece.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times we get stuck in, okay, now I know how I feel, but what do I do?
Exactly. I'm glad that came through.
We do too. We do too. We get stuck in a feeling, and what do I do about it? I mean,
Exactly.
as adults, we all do that. But self-care is a big part of that book as well.
Exactly.
And it was actually one of our readers was my niece.
Our pre-readers, yeah.
Our pre-readers. And she said, Aunt Dee, what my friends are saying to me is, am I going to get it?
Yeah.
Am I going to have a mental illness like my family or like my parent? And when Michelle and I were talking, she said, Mom, that's a really big, important question. I think we need a whole chapter on that. So the last chapter in our book is about resilience and good self-care, red flags, warnings, pay attention, early intervention, hopefully in a way that is kind and encouraging and in a way that our readers will resonate with.
Because they know a lot more than they did 20 years ago.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
For good and for bad. Some of the wrong information concerns me, but the fluency, the vocabulary, the understanding of mental illness is so different now. And so we really need to up our game in some respects and address directly, honestly, compassionately, but honestly, yes, you are at higher risk given your DNA, your genes. And what can you do about it? And so that's why that whole chapter we really think is a strong addition.
It is. It's so honest, right? It doesn't sugarcoat it in a way that makes it feel. A lot of times when things are sugarcoated, you kind of ignore it, right? But it's very honest, but it's very kind.
Okay.
It makes you understand and then kind of reflect on maybe this could be hereditary. Maybe this could be a result of trauma. This could be a result. If I self-care, maybe this will help me, but there's different options, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen to me. Doesn't mean that it is.
Right.
It's not giving a definitive answer that may not be true. It's very honest. And I liked how you also gave the examples of different like coping skills and self-care practices, right? Listening to music, journaling, taking a walk, because especially for young people, we spend a lot of time on our phones.
Yes.
Spend a lot of time on TikTok and getting all our information on what we should be doing there. And I remember in 2020, during the pandemic, everyone was on TikTok all the time. And I was really struggling with depression. I called my dad and I was like, I need to get this whole skincare. And I had this whole explanation of what I needed. And he was like, why? I was like, it'll help me feel better. I saw it on TikTok. That's self-care. He can justify to me how $300 on moisturizer is going to cure your depression and give you the money. Justify it. Thus, I learned that self-care was not about how much you spent or how much time you put in. It was about doing things with intention that helped you feel good, that fit within your schedule, that fit within your budget. And
absolutely.
so many perfect examples of things that didn't take a lot of time, that don't take a lot of effort, that don't take big expenditures. These are all things that you can do, even if it's just you alone with no tools around you, or if you have a notebook or your phone.
Right. Absolutely. That's why we have that one page in the back of activities to lift your spirit. So you can just look at that. It's like, there's got to be something on there you can do. And like you said, it doesn't need to be a lot of money or a lot of time. It's something that you can do right here, right now. That is good. I'm so glad that came through because that was something we were really hoping, honestly, Fran. So I'm glad that message came through.
I think so much came through again that I wish I had. Looking back, people talk about suicide prevention a lot. It's a very word we're talking about, or two words we're talking about, yet we're very reactive. We're seeing the suicide rates go up with the youth, right? And yet we're still very reactive overall as a society. This is something that's a lot more preventative, right?
Exactly right. Exactly.
The access to information before you end up in a place where you're in crisis. And it's not just access to information to understand or have an idea, but also to develop the language, maybe to tell somebody, as well as things you can do. So it's not just, okay, now here's a bunch of labels, good luck.
Right, right.
It actually is, I mean, a teen's guide, it really is a guide.
Oh, good.
Good, good. No, I think you just really nailed it, is that we really are hoping it provides moving beyond information. That's a good starting point, and definitely helping to open the conversation. But then what? What can I do about that pain? How can I connect? And what are ways that I can cope with it in an effective way? So absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And then going back to something you said before. So you mentioned how, also having family members with mental illness and how you had to be able to separate, or sometimes it's hard to separate like yourself from it, was feeling really too close.
Right.
How did you go about being able to, I guess when you have that kind of pain and that experience, it really does help create that purpose. But also a lot of emotions can come out that makes it very difficult. So how did you find that balance to be able to let both coexist?
Yeah, that's a hard question. It's a really good question.
It is. It is a balance. It is a kind of a dance. And I was wise enough to know I could share with Michelle this. I can't do this right now. It doesn't feel good. But it was also my motivation.
Yeah.
It was also my friends and family members. If I can do anything to help them or to help people who love them or others in the world, that was my big motivation. And not where I was tired or hungry or just plain didn't feel it doing this.
Yeah.
I did. We did. We worked really hard, and sometimes we had some deadlines that were really stressful.
Yeah.
And those deadlines do exist in book publishing.
Yeah.
We didn't know if that was really true, but it was our motivation. And you just work hard to take very good care of yourself, because we have to take our own advice,
Right.
and still find that motivation to move forward even when it's hard.
But fortunately, sometimes if one of us was in that place, the other one wasn't.
Right.
So we can kind of go back and forth in that way. And it's like, okay, you take a break, I'll take the steps here. What can I do? And then come back and reset, do some of those self-care things and reconnect. So yeah, it's, be it as a psychologist, be it as a writer, whatever else, figuring that out for ourselves. What do I need to set my own limits, take care of myself? And then when can I show up to write, to teach, to whatever else? That is, I think, a career-long, juggling act that we do.
Lifelong.
Yeah.
Really exemplify the messages that you're putting out there. But what is your favorite self-care? What's your go-to?
What's your favorite self-care?
I need to think about that.
Okay. For me, it's daily exercise. It's really important for my mental health. It's just regularly getting my heart rate up every single day. That is just for my physical health, mental health, everything. That is huge. And then about 7 months ago, I got a puppy. And so playing with my puppy, he makes me laugh every day. And so spending time with him is really lifting and joyful and fun. And so those are the first two that come to mind for me.
I'm an active person, so walking, and it's not always easy in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So walking is also prayer time for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I grab onto, and that's what I hang on to, and that helps sustain me.
I love that. Movement is so important. It's so helpful. And
it is.
I wish, again, so when I was in the psych unit, when I came out, didn't come out with a lot of tools, right? So I didn't come out knowing anything about emotions, how to cope, self-care, anything, but definitely there was never a conversation on movement. And as I've been years out of it, learning my self-care practice as well as going for a 3-mile walk every day. And
good.
depending on my mood, it's either a Taylor Swift album in my ear or a But it's really helpful to just get out in fresh air, to get out of your head, because a lot, I mean, when you're exposed, I guess, from my experience as someone with lived experience, with family members, experience now in grad school, starting to see clients, trying to run a nonprofit, there's so much happening in my head all the time. And if I don't take a minute to just catch my breath and reset, I crash.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so important that we all keep that regular, just as much as we need, sleep and good diet and exercise and things like that. Moving our bodies regularly is just so important. There's something else I wanted to go back to that you said a couple minutes ago that I wonder if we could press on a little bit further. And that is, you are absolutely right that our book is prevention. And if we look at certainly funding streams and things like that, it's hard to get money for prevention. But we are trying to provide awareness, support, things like that higher up in the stream. Because otherwise, these are going to be the next people in our mental health clinics, waiting rooms and things like that. It's like, if we could try to teach some of these skills, raise awareness, help people feel not alone, the sense of empowerment that you even described today at the beginning of our podcast today. It's like, oh, if only I had known this and perhaps could have helped, my course. So we believe so strongly that this is absolutely, you nailed it. You nailed it. It is absolutely prevention. And so how can we as a society, this is part of my career's dream, honestly, Fran, is how can we as a society help move the needle, even just a little bit, to asking more about even, do you have children? Much less, how are the children doing? And then third, and this is a huge stretch, but how can we support the kids? Okay, I'm not pathologizing or saying the kids all need therapy or things. Of course not. But even, it's not always consistent, friend. They even ask, do you have kids? Much less, how are they doing? So, and I appreciate, worked with physicians and healthcare providers a long time. Their doctor appointments are very short. They have a lot of things they have to do, and so their time is limited. But we know that the role of being a parent can be a motivator for people as they seek care, to stay sober, to get out of bed, whatever else. And so finding out more about, hey, do you have kids? How are they doing? And then, hey, there are some resources for them. Sadly, in our country, United States of America, there aren't a lot of resources for these kids, very sadly, that they, as we said before, are often invisible. And so that is, again, why we wrote this book. It's like, hey, there's this resource. I'll tell you, we're not making any money. This is not about making money. We're never going to get out of the hole, honestly. So we're not like trying to make money, but we're trying to let people know. And this is all about prevention of trying to let people know that resources are available.
So I love that, asking how are the kids doing?
Yeah.
There's this idea that people always say kids are so resilient. Kids are so
Yeah.
they'll get through it. But what
Mhm.
makes someone resilient? Having the
Right.
tools to be able to get through it. Otherwise, you're just knocking someone down more and more until they're on the ground, and then you say, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Grow up, get over it. Life is so much tougher when I was younger, right? These are things we instead of resiliency comes from having the tools to be able to make it to the next day.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. So it is so important to hear, to listen, and to educate and empower, because let's face it, we all face tough stuff, be it mental illness, which, as we know, affects about 1 in 5 kids, right? So this is not a rare, unusual thing. This is very popular, very common phenomenon. 20% of kids have a parent with mental illness. So this is affecting a lot of people. But if we can move beyond the reactive stance that you described and really move into, hey, you know what? To youth, there are research-based strategies that may decrease the risk of you even developing a mental illness, much less if you do develop one, then you have more effective tools. Now, friend, just to be clear, a lot of these things are things that we know. Things like regular sleep, avoiding or minimizing substance use, healthy diet. Social isolation is huge. So connecting, getting stuck on our phones 24/7 is just a recipe for lots of problems. So staying connected, having kind of some sort of meaning or purpose, all these things are asking for help early, focusing on what you have control over. These are things people have probably heard of before, but did they know that actually it may decrease the chance of them developing depression? I mean, this is huge, or anxiety or other things like that. This is real. This isn't just like, eat a fruit salad for lunch instead of McDonald's because it's good for you. There are lots of reasons, but we're not really leaning into that. And that's really our mission, our ministry, is trying to raise awareness of these young people and try to help them.
It's bridging the gap in the information, because it's like, yeah, we know that this is healthy food that's good for you,
Right.
but why?
Right. Exactly.
That I like to color. When I'm sad, I should do something maybe that makes me feel happy. But when I'm feeling really sad, something I can do to get through that moment is maybe to color, right?
Yeah.
All together, but we often don't. We expect people to take two separate pieces of information and automatically merge them together. And a lot of times we don't.
Right, exactly. And it's hard. It's harder maybe to eat healthy food or to motivate to exercise if that's not naturally enjoyable for you. So what are the reasons? And I think a huge part of what we try to do is empower that you do have some control. Just like we talked about control a few minutes ago. Yeah, you can't change your parent. You can't make them stop drinking or go to therapy or whatever else, but you have control over you. And within limits, of course. You're still a dependent probably, but what can you do and focus on what control you have? Now, we need to at least briefly acknowledge the elephant in the living room here, and that is many parents are afraid of talking about their kids or things because they're afraid child protective services could, take their children away or things. And so that's a very obvious reality we need to acknowledge. And the fear of maybe children being taken away can be horrifying. So I think this is another prevention mode. We need to help move the system to, yes, of course we have to keep children safe. Absolutely. That's not a question. But can we do it in a way that is empowering the parents rather than disempowering and yanking the kids out of the house, which can be pretty traumatic for everyone.
When it feels like consequence doesn't even feel like the right word. When it feels like a punishment to admit that you're openly struggling and that you need support,
Exactly.
like what's going to happen? I mean, even I imagine, I don't have kids, but I imagine as a parent, if you have a kid and you love them so much and all you want to do is protect them, the
Yeah.
fear of if I admit that I need help and go and get that help, that might take them away from me and then I can't protect them anymore. So it's
Mhm.
a double-edged sword of who do I protect? How am I supposed to be strong in this moment? And that has to be terrifying. I never even thought about it from that perspective.
It's huge. It's huge. Are you saying I'm not a good mom? There's so much shame surrounding being criticized in that role. Are you saying I can't take good care of my kids? Are you going to take my kids away from me? I mean, it's terrifying. So there are reasons that don't ask, don't tell sort of thing happens. Partly for the healthcare team. Okay, well, we find out that your kid is struggling or has an eating disorder or suicidal or whatever else. Well, what do we do? I'm caring for the adult, and maybe even you got a partner who's also calling me 2 times a week. I don't have time to talk to them. I got enough of my own patients, much less the kids. How do we handle and support all these people? It can be overwhelming, but I would come back and say, if we don't help the young people, that's not going to help you as my patient. Certainly not going to help them and not going to help your family. So it's super important, but we need to manage this delicately.
Do. And I mean, going back to what you were saying before too about, if you naturally don't enjoy going for a walk or eating healthy, it can be really difficult to kind of find things to start doing, especially when your environment at home might not feel very stable to encourage you to even want to leave your room. So
Right.
find ways to slowly implement things like, in the book was reading, right? Meditation, learning that
Yes.
even if you just close your eyes and take a few deep breaths for a minute,
Right.
with that, go on YouTube and find maybe a meditation or an app
Yes.
that you can listen to. So if you don't have access to healthy food or you don't live in a safe area, go outside and get movement or don't have a gym, there's small things you can do even from like that safe space of being in your bed. And that's such an important conversation to be having because so many people feel like, well, I can't do these things, so I can't do anything.
Oh, Francesca, you are right on with that.
Yep.
I'm just all about good self-care, and sometimes it's a walk around the block. Sometimes it's 5 minutes in your bathroom with the door closed, and you're just breathing or humming, or maybe you have a mantra. And that sounds really zen, but it isn't necessarily. Maybe there's some square breathing
Uh-huh.
just to help you actually lower and calm your nervous system. And I know and love someone dearly who was having some anxiety, and that person did some square breathing and was surprised it worked. And I said, I'm so glad that you found out that it worked. But it doesn't need to be, go to your book club or go to your yoga every Saturday morning. That's great. And it's all about setting boundaries. And if you can do those kinds of things, but often it's just a small break several times a day, 5 to 10 minutes. If you've got a puppy, they're pretty much A plus as far as self-care is concerned. They just lick and cuddle no matter what.
Yeah, although I'll say my puppy, I love her so much. When I went to get up this morning to start my day, she just jumped. She's like a 10-pound little Shih Tzu. She's very cute. But she jumped onto me and started crying, like, please don't get up, don't do anything. And then a death stare whenever I'm not giving her attention. So she's so great when I'm giving her attention. Licks my tears away. So amazing. Love her more than anything. But I'm so sad whenever I'm not like snuggling with her. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I promise I love you.
I know. Mine's about the same. He wants to be constantly touching me and always with me. And so he's sleeping at my feet actually at the moment. Yes, so I appreciate it. And at 7:30 in the morning, hello, good morning, let's play. Yeah, I
And
can
for
really.
me, having the dog is when the depressive episodes really happen and there's days where I feel like I can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
Because I live alone, it's me and my dog. I have to get out of bed. I have to
Yes.
get outside. I have to get up and feed her and give her water. And that's been huge. And I wish when I was younger, we had family pets. If I
Yeah,
had thought about it that way, like if I have to get up for my dog to spend
right.
time together, helped maybe get me out of my bed just for a few minutes to feel like I belonged and existed instead of feeling so, I guess, hopeless, worthless, just stuck in what's never gonna be better.
Absolutely. I think that's so well said. They push us to engage, be it taking on a walk. Sometimes people talk to you more when you go on a walk or just getting yourself out of bed or things like that. Absolutely. There's so many benefits. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And exactly, there's so many different things that we can do. And by having conversations like this, really letting people know it could be that walk, it could be reading, it could be journaling, it could be meditating, it could be deep breathing, it could be spending time with your dog, it could be
Right.
that one thing that feels like the reason to get up and get out of bed. Just finding something can really make the difference. But as we are wrapping up, what is one last thing that you would like to leave our readers with?
I'd like to leave our readers with a story.
Did I say readers? Listeners.
I thought it was listeners, but I thought I'm taking my cue from beautiful Francesca. Our listeners, a story for our book on teens. We had our pre-readers, and one of our teens, this person was going into 7th grade, and this person wrote in their critique, don't forget to write about giving grace. And I went, oh my goodness. I looked at Michelle and I went, we forgot that. We don't have the concept of giving grace in either of our books, which is a huge omission. And we have had 20, 30, 40 people read both of the books, and no one realized that or brought that to our attention except a 7th grade reader. And so you never know who's
Right.
going to give you just kernels that are so important and key. So we wrote about giving grace in both books, and also what it means not to give grace. And it's very important that that concept is understood. So we are incredibly grateful to that beautiful 7th grade person. And
Yeah, and all the people who shared their stories with us.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's why the books both contain stories of people with lived experience, because we think that adds so much to it. I would add just 2 quick things. One is the whole name of our company is Seeds of Hope, because we do have hope, and we try to instill in our writing, our talks, our podcasts, a spirit of hope. This is hard, let's face it. And the research is clear for teenagers, for loved ones. This is really tough. And so we aren't being Pollyanna and saying, oh, it's all great, it's wonderful, kumbaya. But this is hard. But there is reason to be hopeful. There are new treatments, therapies, research, providers, young people like you who are going into the field, who are going to be helping people. And so, A, let's absolutely hold on to hope. And B, we would love if the listeners would be willing to check out our website, which I hope you'll put in the show notes. It's seeds with an S, seedsofhopebooks.com, because there are also some free resources on there. Not only links to organizations and things, but there's like a free guide some colleagues and I made about how veterans can talk to their kids about parental PTSD. There are some tips on how parents can talk to kids about military deployment. This is all free. These are all free on the website. Just go to the resources page. So seedsofhopebooks.com. We would love folks to check it out. We also just want to say thank you. You obviously are very bright and passionate, and given your own personal experience and your training, gives us hope seeing people like you too, and the difference that you're making and will continue to make. So bravo to you. And
Bravo to you, Francesca. Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you. And people like you are giving me hope that we're going to switch to more prevention, that we are going to really help the next generation. And that's where suicide prevention starts, giving people the tools when they're younger. It can change everything for the next generation growing up, to actually have conversations, to know how to check in with themselves, to know what to do. So you both are giving me so much hope. And for people who are listening, want to buy the book, where are some places they can go to get the book?
Yeah, from our website, you can click to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. In Canada, it's Indigo. I mean, there are a lot of different places.
Wherever books are sold.
Wherever you want to. Yeah, we actually had a really cool thing just last week. We found out that a psychiatric unit in Iceland is using the book. So they're going to translate it to Icelandic. That's exciting. They're using it I was in London a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to use it they're in the UK. They're going to use it in Ottawa and Quebec. And so it's going to be translated and used in different places around the world, which is pretty exciting to us.
Thank you so much for listening to Normalize the Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast is an initiative of Inspiring My Generation, focusing on normalizing the conversation, bringing education and awareness to the forefront, and amplifying global voices to spark change and hope. Inspiring My Generation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization on a mission towards suicide prevention through awareness, conversation, education, and support. Connect with us on Instagram at Inspiring My Generation, and visit our website inspiringmygeneration.org to learn more about our work and how you can make a difference.